Hello, folks. This is Avidan. And may God's peace, grace, truth, and love be with you all if you seek Him in faith, and faith alone in Jesus Christ. Now, this is going to be just like a prologue to probably a larger series on Calvinism and the potential dangers of this, what I believe to be heretical teaching. I don't believe it has much basis in the Bible outside of the wisdom of men, which is considered foolishness to God. So I just narrowly escaped being in a church that was absolutely full of it. Okay, I go there to talk about Jesus. I go there to talk about the Bible, and constantly I'd be getting just constantly have you read the books by Spurl? Have you read the books by Spurgeon? Have you read the books by John Calvin and Augustine and all these guys that when you look them all back up, you see all the links to Calvinism, and they were not teaching actually Calvinism like as outright. Okay, they were just hinting to it. Okay, so it was like this bait and switch tactic into it. So I want to just spend a little bit of time on what I've learned. John Calvin he was French, it was Jean Calvin, and he came up around the same time as Ignatius Loyola. As you can see here, he went to Collège de Montaigu, and that was with Erasmus of Rotterdam, John Calvin, Ignatius of Loyola, right? And Scottish reformer John Knox, who you actually see here in this picture. There's William Farel, John Calvin, Theodore Beza, and John Knox. Now I want to show you something else that was in this picture that I just want to say. Now this doesn't mean that they're owned by them, but it certainly is an interesting picture. That's for sure. Just one second. Let's zoom this in a little bit. Right here. Yeah. What's this, guys? What's this? This is the Reformation Wall in Geneva, whom Calvin, this guy here, was actually, I think he was a magistrate there. And we'll get into that later once I do a little bit more research. But I-H and what looks like an E, right? But that's not an E. That is, see this right here? It's an S. What has S, guys? What has an S? The Jesuits. How about that? Weren't they supposed to be the counter-Reformation? So what are they doing here on the Reformation Wall? Isn't that interesting? Now, I will say that doesn't prove that the Jesuits are part of Calvinism. I'll be taking a look into it, but I don't see how. I haven't seen the link yet. If anybody wants to show me the link between them and Jesuits, please send me off that information. But I just wanted to show that there. Now, I'll show you another thing very quickly. John Calvin, in his works, which is called the Institutes of the Christian Religion, which people basically just absolutely reject. A lot of people do. There's some good stuff in it, don't get me wrong, but he seemed to be quite the, what do you call it, the megalomaniac in and of himself. And he actually made, when he was part of Geneva, like the head of Geneva, the Institutes of Christian Religion was considered holy and was not allowed to be, what do you call it, rebuked or anything like that. And he forced people to go to church there, which is not very Christian. You don't force people to go to church. So I'll let you know, Reformed theology is another name for Calvinists, so don't let anybody fool you with that, because they don't like to call themselves Calvinists. And you will see here, he is influenced by the Augustinian tradition. Now, Augustine, just want to let you know, he's considered like the father, okay, of the Roman Catholic Church. And they often consider him a father of the church, but it's really the Roman Catholic Church. Most of his things that came out, like he was preaching the rosary. Also, we have here, as you can see, his statements on Mary surpass in number and depth those of other early writers. Even before the Council of Ephesus, he defended the ever-Virgin Mary as the Mother of God, who, because of her virginity, is full of grace. Now, if you read further into Augustine, you'll realize that he was a Manichaean, and as well, he was a Gnostic before he converted. And a lot of people say that he certainly did not change his views at all after he went. But this right here is completely against Scripture. There is no biblical evidence that states that Mary did not have brothers. In fact, as you see here in Matthew 12:46, you can see while Jesus was still talking to the crowd, his mother and brothers stood outside wanting to speak to him. Luke 8:19, now Jesus' mother and brothers came to see him. Mark 3:31, then Jesus' mothers and brothers arrived. There's absolutely no reason to think that Jesus didn't have brothers. However, after his brothers had left for the feast, he went also, not publicly, but in secret. Mary the mother of Jesus, and with his brothers, right? So here's the thing. You want to talk about someone being a father of the church, and John Calvin actually quotes Augustine 400 times in his writings, yet this guy can't even get that right when it's in at least 4 passages of Scripture that we have right now that he certainly did have access to. So if he can't get that right, imagine how misconstrued his doctrine is. So that is just the brief epilogue that I just wanted to get into with John Calvin, the very sketchy reformer. So what it looks like, the word reform, don't be fooled by that. Reform doesn't necessarily mean that they have strong biblical doctrine. Now, I am not all that well researched in it just yet, but I do have enough experience in the Bible to know that something is very off with this, and especially the way that it was being pushed in the church that I was in. It was something that they wouldn't mention outright. It was just like put in like very subtly. It was like if you didn't look up, they were teaching a lot of Matt Chandler. I don't know if you know that guy. And if you didn't look him up, you would never know that he was a Calvinist. You'd never know, really, I don't even think when he was teaching, he was talking about Reformed theology. So, and the way that they would talk, they would never really mention Reformed theology, except for maybe once or twice. You wouldn't know that that was Calvinist unless you looked it up for yourself. And then all day, you try and talk about Jesus, you try and talk about the Bible, but what they start pushing on you is John Piper, Charles Spurgeon, what's his name? Spurl, C.S. Spurl, I think is his name. Who else? There was a whole bunch. Matt Chandler being another one. Calvin, Augustine. There's a whole bunch of these guys. John MacArthur is another big one. So they try and push like their works and their writings onto them, and essentially, I mean, it really gets you away from the Bible, because what they believe in, like with the tulip, the 5 points, the 5 points of Calvinism, as you can see right here. Total depravity, unconditional election, limited atonement, irresistible grace, and perseverance of the saints. I'm going to try and go through these as time passes, but as you can see here, well, let me see if I can move myself away from there. Here you go. So you can take a look into that. It doesn't seem to have much biblical standpoint. The more that you look into it, they usually go to their own logic and their own wisdom of man. So I just wanted to say that beware, guys. If you have people pushing these guys on you in church, you might want to take a further look for yourself, because it was certainly a very crafty way that they were doing it. So I guess it's up to you guys. Please leave some information down below. I'll be here to make another video later on this, probably sometime this week. But just to let you know, I reject this teaching as it stands at the moment. I have not seen any credible evidence to say that this is true doctrine. So until then, this has been Avidan, and may God's peace, truth, and love be with you all if you search him in faith of Jesus Christ alone. Take care.